We're at Aquashella. Ben and I are in the same place.
I know.
I can
touch you.
I can. Ting, ting. Welcome to a special Reef Beef. My name is Rich.
And my name is Ben.
And this is Reef Beef, the podcast where we beef about reef and reef about beef. Actually, we don't reef about any kind of beef anyway.
Yeah.
We're at Aquashella. It's an aquarium conference that covers everything. Well, actually, we're in my hotel room where we have just done. No, we haven't done anything like that. We're in the hotel room because the show floor is so loud that it's very difficult for us to get any kind of recording that makes any sense. But we're here. It's Sunday. It's a conference that covers every part of the aquarium industry, with like what? With
freshwater even and
saltwater and art, and there's even some reptiles and there's some kittens. But I think the kittens are food.
Yeah, for the reptiles.
For the reptiles and for the big fish. And we're giving a keynote talk later today. We'll see if we can record that. And that's what we're doing. So we thought we're here together. We should do a reef beef.
Yeah, let's beef together.
What do you want to beef about? We didn't even talk about this. I just started recording.
This is completely impromptu. In case our thing is not recordable tonight, should we talk about what we're going to do?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
We are... Oh, by the way, we hung out with Tammy yesterday, and we always talk about Trucker Tammy and that she's awesome. She's friggin' awesome. So thanks, Tammy, for hanging out with us.
She just hung out all day, didn't really know us from Adam.
Who's Adam?
And Steve.
Oh, exactly. So we're talking, what are we talking about?
The hobby, is it getting better or worse?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I think it's a mixed bag.
I think that's true. It is a mixed bag. And we're going to talk about several topics about it. So, like, what's the first one? Like, animals.
Yeah, like animal availability.
Yeah, animal availability.
Yeah.
Better or worse?
I guess my position, I was saying worse.
Worse? How so?
Well, I'll end up drawing that back later because I'm saying worse because for me, I got in the 90s and it was like seemed like a kind of a golden age where you could get anything. But the reason I'm going back is because I'm saying a lot of that anything should never have been accessible to us.
Okay, so you say it's worse in the fact that you can't get as much stuff, as many different kinds of animals.
Yeah.
Right. That's funny because I would say better for the exact same reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like things that didn't pan out to be. It doesn't mean that there's not still stuff available that's like not really sustainable.
Yeah.
And not very keepable. I see it all the time. I see it on the showroom floor.
Yeah.
I see it in pet stores all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, maybe, what do they call that? Obligate coelivore butterflies and stuff like that. That even stores, we'd order them, they die in 2 days.
Yeah.
And it's like...
And I almost see none of those in stores or on lists now. So
yeah, definitely butterflies. I don't think I see those much.
Yeah, which is great because why should we be keeping those? I think people who want them and are able to try to give them what they need and think they have an idea of what to do differently than we've done in the past, I think they should be able to get them, order to collect.
Yeah, that could be like a kind of boutique idea. If you're an advanced aquarist, some people to contact.
Get me one of these.
Whoever, Quality Marine, whatever, and to say, hey, can you get me this? And it's just, they're going out, and it might take a while, but you could get it if you...
Yeah, well, it's going to take 2 weeks. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. What else about the animals?
As far as animal availability, that's about it. I'm happy to see more and more captive bred stuff. So that's always good.
Corals, yeah.
That's always good. The less you take off of a reef, let's be honest, that's especially if the hobby is growing, we should be taking less off of it. So that would be a thing, I think, is availability of cultured or captive bred stuff.
Yeah, which is always good. Why should any beginning hobbyists, have scalemia? Wild caught scalemia. I think you should have stuff that's easy to get and cultured because why should something be flown halfway around the world for you to experiment on when you have no experience? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Now, I'm just looking at our it was animal availability. Yeah, and I think in other ways animal availability has gone up. You can there's so many places you can order from online and get stuff the next day.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible. And there's still stores and stuff. So
as far as availability, accessibility.
Accessibility is
better.
Is better. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else on that?
No.
I'll see what else we're talking about. We said we're going to talk about equipment. Is better or worse?
Light years better.
I think light years better. I don't think there's any way around that.
No. What could possibly be worse about it?
Well, I can tell you something that's worse about it is how do you decide what to buy? Before, when I started when I got back into the hobby in the early 2000s, there were two power heads. There was Hagen AquaClear, and there was MaxiJet.
Yeah.
And for moving any water inside your tank, those were your two choices.
Yeah.
Now there's 50,000 choices, and do you do a Wi-Fi? I picked up a Wi-Fi controlled prop pump from CJ. Used to be our sponsor, now fuck them. And
come on back, Steve.
No. Oh, but we got this from our other sponsor, who's coming back as a sponsor, Marine. Is that who it is?
Saltwateraquarium.com.
So that's great. But
thanks, Kenneth.
Yeah, really. And screw you, CJ. Yeah. But so why do you need a Wi-Fi controlled power head?
Toys.
Prop pump,
Toys.
So it's toys.
Yeah.
So do you get that? Do you want to connect? I got it because I want to connect it to Apex, because Apex now talks to CJ. So I want to play with that, and I have a spot where I need a pump that big in the home Reef tank. But there's so many. Do you go Coralia? Do you go CJ? Do you go Jabo? Do you go Ecotech? Do you go
Red Sea?
Do you go Neptune Systems? Do you go?
Yeah, a plethora.
A plethora of.
Would you say there is a plethora of choices?
I would say there is a plethora of choices. Do you know what plethora means?
What is a plethora?
And lights is the same thing. We got I got to show Ben the Neptune Sky, which I've been running on my home tank since January, and I think it's great. But if you're, how do you decide? Do you go with the Sky? Do you go with Ecotech? Do you go with
some Reef brights on the side?
Do you go with what do you? How do you make a choice? Kessel, right?
AI.
So they're an equipment I think that's worse because
there's still bad equipment in every segment.
Yeah.
But I would also say I remember back in the days, you truly had the bottom level skimmers were like, you still have skimmers. You're like, why did you even put 1 cent on that? But back in the day, there's just a bigger disparity, and now there's just so much competition. Like even not so great ones, pretty good.
Yeah, so we think the competition is great. If we're stretching to look for what's worse about it is, how do you make a decision about that? Which I guess is another.
I don't think that's bad.
It's a whole nother thing we talk about later on. Right? Did we talk about that? Money? Oh, we took that out. No, money is next. Yeah. Okay, great. Money. Yeah. Is money?
It seems. God, I don't know how I want to tackle that, but it seems like it's more expensive to have a saltwater aquarium.
Does it?
But it's more. You could be more successful. I don't know. This is confusing because you could always not spend much on a reef, and that seems kind of tied, not to sound arrogant, but I could make a pretty damn good reef tank with some low grade crap that you would comment you loved the tank that I made if we gave it time to mature, and then I showed you the filtration. You're like, what? But so it's experience. So
I think for a lot of the stuff, the price point's kind of the same. You can find the same kind of equipment for the same kind of price point, but lighting has gotten better all the way around. It's more powerful. It's better spectrum. It's better for growing corals. So you have to pay more for that, but there's more packed into it. We didn't have those options, 40 years ago or 30 years ago or even 20 years ago or even 15 years ago, really. And so you're paying for that, but I don't think you were paying more for it now. It didn't exist. So
yeah, and things are more complicated. It used to be VHO bulbs, power compact bulbs, metal halide, And there's nothing complicated about that at all.
Well, how much was halide, right? The bulbs are $100.
I remember thinking that was expensive.
Right. So you got to get a reflector.
Yeah.
You know, so that's $200-$300. You got to get a ballast. That's $200-$300. So it's $500 already. You got to get a bulb.
When you
that's
replace
$100.
Yeah.
$600. You know, the high-end LED fixtures now are $850.
Yeah.
Not that much of a difference in price, I guess.
Well, and the other thing, like with a halide, being in Texas, we were subjected to that more than maybe some other states. But, you know, if you got halides, you kind of had to grab a chiller. So, I mean, with that choice of light, then you had to cool the water down. Then you're probably talking about more than an LED fixture.
Yeah. So maybe it's a wash on expense, on money. Some corals are more expensive. Some are about the same. Some animals are more expensive. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's. We were just talking to Tim, who's out in the Solomons, and we were talking to Jake Adams about some of this stuff, and animals, we think, I don't know what, I'm going to want to put words in Jake's mouth because I was talking to Tim about this, but we think animals should be more expensive because they're animals. They're not, they're not a product.
But people could complain about, like, don't say make it more expensive. And that's just, it's a rough one because I mean, I've already devoted 25 years of my life to this. I'd like to devote another 25 years to it. But if we, dare I use this word, if we rape the ocean as it dies on itself, the hobby's not going to be there for us to have.
Well, the question is also, how much more expensive are we talking, right? So you already some single polyp corals, like what's the one that you keep telling me is so expensive now? It's $1,200.
Like acanthophilias.
Acanthophilias are so expensive right now, but nobody seems to care. People are still buying them.
And I know they're a little different, but I mean, we used to sell acanthophilia for maybe 60 to 100, a little over 100. I mean, some of them are a little more fantastic looking now and a little larger, granted, but
I think there's good reasons those are more expensive. I think they were always underpriced. For what they are. They're single polyps, so you take it off the reef, it's done. It's not like taking a piece of an acro. So I think those being more expensive is is $1,200 the right price? I don't know. People are paying for it, and there's still plenty of other corals. Tim and I were saying that the lower price corals, the entry level corals, which is some people have a weird reaction to entry level. Entry level's a thing. Should be all the cultured animals, and those are inexpensive. They're grown stateside. They're grown, so you can kind of be more understanding about what the supply chain for them is. Those things should be less expensive. I agree. I think things coming out of the ocean should be more expensive.
I want to dwell on a point you made a second ago.
Dwell
just to
away.
Really get it nailed down. Because you do realize, like a scolemia, trachophilia, acanthophilia, these kind of, what would you call it, solitary corals that kind of sit all alone.
They're one polyp. They're one animal. They're not colonial.
So when you collect that, it's just gone. You don't leave something behind. And when they collect acros and maybe some soft corals, and I mean, by and large, soft corals should be, pretty much cultured.
Yeah, those are easy.
But, anything that you take from the ocean is a good idea to, like, cut it in half or cut a piece and leave some of it there so you could return later and possibly collect more and it could be sustainable. But, and that's kind of like what you're saying, where some of that solitary stuff should be expensive because the product's not out there just to continue, just keep taking it.
Yeah.
Like it's an infinite supply.
Well, also, fish. The marshals had real problems with over collection of flame angels, right? Because they were sold for $14 each at the wholesale level.
Uber popular.
And we're not collecting them anymore because there was we hurt that population. So,
those are the same things of desire. Everyone gets in the hobby, and if you're going to pick a dwarf angel, you see a flame, you're like, I've got to have that. And it has to be more forethought because maybe pay a little more so it's just not so available to freaking everybody, and then one day we just can't have it.
And then the other part about paying more is that they'll be treated better through the chain of custody. Yeah, one of the reasons chromis don't do well is because they're put in a tiny little bag, and as many as can be put into a box to ship, and so they're not treated well. We've talked about this on the show. When I've gone out to collect animals for research, we put one coral that's the size of your hand and 3 gallons of water, and it's in one big box by itself, and we baby it the whole time, and it costs more, but we don't lose any of them. So if fish were
but like
treated
in your realm for that, you're not trying to get it back as economically as possible because you're trying to make a buck on it.
No, we're trying to. It's got to live.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's a good metric for people who are collecting and shipping animals. It should live. You know, the term acceptable loss always makes me cringe a little bit. And acceptable loss should be like, 1% maybe, making a number from my butt because I don't do it. But acceptable loss of 30%?
The first pet store, the first pet store I ever worked at, my boss told me, he was doing this in the 60s and 70s, and he told me about how parrots used to be, where they would duct tape them so they couldn't move, and they would stack them in a box, and he was talking about acceptable loss. So you'd get this box of I don't know how many macaws, a couple live, and you understanding that you were going to get a box of dead birds.
Right.
And the government stepped in and was like, that cannot happen.
Yeah.
And so if you can't breed them, you can't own them, is what that turned into.
So if we're getting shipped boxes of fish and we're losing a bunch of them, that's something the customer never sees. Mm-hmm. And the thing I harp on it is if the industry and trade doesn't get on it themselves and control that and make that better, when the government comes in and does it, the government will do it, and people in the industry and trade will be less happy than if they controlled it some themselves.
I mean, that's like a divorce. If you don't figure out between you and your spouse, a judge will figure it out, and it likely won't go in your favor.
Oh, and another thing on this subject is, the idea of making it the hobbyist, the end user is the one who should be doing something to make it better, which I think is crazy pants.
That's like recycling.
And here's some examples of that the hobbyists don't care. Right? So we were talking about flame angels. Flame angels aren't ubiquitous like they used to be. Mm-hmm. The hobbyists don't care. Hobbyists will buy, for the most part, what's in front of them at the store. Mm-hmm. So if there's not a flame angel, they don't care. It's harder to get yellow tang now, right? Mm-hmm. Hobbyists don't really care because it's not a choice that they can have.
And, you'll bitch about it, but then you'll buy what's in front of you.
Yeah, but most hobbyists don't even know to bitch about it. Most hobbyists, because remember, most hobbyists are not listening to Reef Beef. Most hobbyists are not even on the forums, mm-hmm. right? Most hobbyists are new, right? We turn over every 18 months or so. They go to the store. It's the supermarket approach. They only know what's in front of them to be able to buy. They only look at the choices that are available, and that's what most people care about. It's only the weird hobbyists that go, I really wish I could get, a Dr. Seuss fish. Mm-hmm. Most
That's
people,
pretty rare.
Yeah, most people don't care. Most people want what they can take home right that day.
Yeah.
So
that is pretty weird. You think hypothetically, if yellow tangs never came back, it would just be an artifact where you and I would talk about, oh, remember when we used to get yellow tangs?
Right.
And new hobby really used to get those? Like, yeah, dude, it was ubiquitous.
And now there's the captive bred ones, and they're selling for $300 or more.
But that'll come down over time.
Or it won't. No one cares. They're all selling out. Why should anybody captive breeding want them to be cheaper to do more work? And, let's keep them the same price and make them money. And that's fine. If the hobbyist has to pay $300 for a yellow tang, they're probably going to take care of it more than they were when a yellow tang cost $30.
You have to pay a lot for a Red Sea purple tang.
Yeah.
It's always been that way.
Bag lot sales are stupid, right? I don't see them much that more. I only know one store, and that means you buy the animals in the bag that they came from the shipper.
I remember doing that a million years ago. I never thought that was a good idea.
There's a store in San Francisco that still does it, but what that means is, you get the animal less expensive than you would if they tanked it. But you probably have to buy that animal 4 times before you get one that lives.
Yeah.
So, meh.
And then multiply that times whatever, and it's just like, that's the thing. We don't see how much stuff dies at a wholesaler or a collector. You don't see how much stuff Rich and I may have killed. So you just imagine, a couple died before I could get this one fish. No, I think dozens have died.
Go work at a wholesaler for a while and see what you think.
It's frustrating.
Some of them are better, some of them are worst. It's worst.
Bratwurst.
Some of them are bratwurst.
Don't be so sauerkraut.
Working in different segments of the hobby gives you a different
Perspective.
And I think we've moved into the next topic, which is ethics.
Yeah.
Are ethics better or worse now, Ben?
Better or worse?
And ethics on all levels.
I think on that I'm going to say both, I guess. Both.
Yeah, this is lame, right? We're going to say both to everything on this.
Shit.
In some segments, ethics are better. In some segments, ethics are worse.
Okay, so let me say worse.
Okay.
Because it's just people seeing what they want, getting what they want without any forethought to, whether it's ethical or not. And we all make those choices all the time. It's like, is it ethical to eat at this certain fast food place, that puts some money towards something you don't agree with? And it's like, yeah, but I just want a freaking chicken wrap. I mean that's up to each one of us to make decisions on. But so all that's different from lives of things. You're like, hey, I want to get this live thing out of the wall and throw it in a box. I mean, you wouldn't do that with a dog or a cat. Why would you do it with a fish?
Yeah. Or if you saw it with a dog and a cat, you'd be really upset about it.
But with a fish, okay, fish are not cut flowers.
Right. Neither are corals.
Yeah.
Except culture's corals kind of are cut flowers, which is okay.
Could be that's a better step who the hell would buy something and intentionally kill it besides a psychopath? But I mean, unintentionally, as you're learning what you're doing, if you happen to kill someone that was already cultured separately from the ocean, hey, that's less offensive.
Sure.
Than like, I barely know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna buy $1,000 acanthophilia and then I killed it in a week and I'm crying about it. It's just like, maybe don't do that yet.
Yeah. I think ethics, I'm an ethical relativist, so there's no absolutes here. It's just a spectrum of better or worse. So I think we should err on the side of better. Mm-hmm. So for instance, my system has traditionally done very terribly with Goniopora. Mm-hmm. So I don't get them very often, and I certainly don't buy wild-caught ones. I would buy a fragment of something that is cultured, and see how that goes, because on the scale of ethics, that's less abhorrent.
I've even way back, I always told, with acros or anything else, like, it's not a bad idea to buy a little frag, because there's lots of corals, their growth pattern and all this, it was physiologically from where they were at, and that might not translate to your aquarium. So if you get like a little thumbnail piece, and okay, that's frustrating, it's tiny, you're waiting for it to grow, but if it's successful, it will grow to what your aquarium is. It will be a more successful coral.
Yeah. I also think ethically it's different because of the scale of the hobby. When the hobby was smaller, our impact was smaller.
Yeah.
Now that it's bigger. And, I think, again, it's another one of these things I think should be more on the shoulders of the industry and the trade than on the end user. A hobbyist just wants to be a hobbyist. They just want to, most of the time, they just want to play with the thing in their hobby.
But I mean, that reminds me of the ethics of recycling, where they try to, they've tried that campaign of saying, it starts with you, not throwing the cup. But I mean, it's gotten to the point where, like, it kind of starts with you, manufacturer. If you could give me another type of thing besides plastic.
Right. When it's not up to me to recycle, then the company's shoving that onto us is so crazy. I mean, it is up to us to recycle, but if that's the case, it's up to those companies to make sure that recycling is a possibility.
Yeah.
And it's really not, with all the different kinds of plastic. So if but if everything was offered was glass or easily recyclable stuff, then that makes some kind of sense for me to do my part and make sure it's recycled. But it's impossible now. So change the freaking plastic.
You just don't kick out stuff that's not good for the environment and say, you guys should fix this. Make me a container out of something else.
Yeah.
Or make the actual recycle process a thing.
Right. And again, it's the same thing. When I go to the store, am I going to get a drink in a plastic or an aluminum? So I was at the airport. They have these aluminum containers. I don't see these very often anywhere else. And I actually decided aluminum is easier and better to recycle. Yeah. And we know that. So that's what I'm going to buy. So, but most of the time you go to at airports, they don't have this. What am I going to do? I'm not going to drink I forgot my my reusable container.
Yeah.
People buy what's in front of them, and that's how it works. And to make it your responsibility to buy something that's not even available seems nuts.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about the ethics of the end user going in a store.
No, good point.
But and the other hard part about it is the ethics of the owner of the local fish store, and the ethics of the collector, and the ethics of the wholesaler. It's a very difficult minefield.
Yeah, why should the end user have to quarantine their fish? Why shouldn't the chain of custody make sure that the animals are more free of disease than they are now?
There is one place I know that quite legitimately does that, TCM Corals in New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
So they don't have everything on their list that you've ever wanted. It can be a little slow if you've requested something that they don't have, and you can scour their website. They quite legitimately have the whole protocol.
Yeah, if you bought a dog and it had parvo, you'd be pissed off.
Then you have to go pay for the treatment.
And don't you actually at reputable dog sellers? I think you get a vet certificate before you buy it.
But it has.
So, but with our animals, with fish, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's an ethically tenuous position to stand in.
And that's also a cut flowers thing. Oh shit, you killed that flame. It's cool. Just order another one.
Yeah.
And it could be storm.
There's going to be a storm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's raining.
Yeah.
How excellent.
It is. Well, it is Florida. But okay, ethics.
We got to move on.
Yeah.
Information would be the next thing. Is information better or worse?
Definitely better, but definitely worse. I'm trying not to pick the middle road.
Well, I think let's do it this way. You pick one, and then let's argue vehemently for 3 minutes back and forth.
Okay.
You want to do better or worse?
Let me for whatever arbitrary reason, I'm going to choose worse.
All right. What do you mean? Of course it's better. Look, there's more internet that's more available. You can go to more places and get more information than you ever could before. It's at your fingertips. The information is better than it's ever been because it's been vetted by experts like Ben Johnson. There is so much good information out there now. It's almost impossible not to get the information you need.
But the tricky thing is the amount of information, and in the beginning you're not savvy enough to sift through. So it could be kind of an overload, So it's almost like you could be doing the wrong things, which is almost as bad as not knowing what to do.
What are you talking about?
I'm trying to be negative.
I can go on. What I'm doing, I'm playing the game.
Play the game, Hardy.
I'm playing the game. I can go on to any one of a number of Facebook groups and get information instantly.
A lot of it could be you don't know the person from Adam and Steve. It could be the wrong information,
Why would someone give me the wrong information?
Why would somebody like a human thing? Like that's another thing on forums. You get the thing where someone that doesn't really know that much, they get excited to answer a question because you want to be a hero and you want to be the person with the answers and you want to, which not a bad thing. I guess we all do that a little bit. But if you don't know shit, you probably shouldn't say shit.
You are full of beef, man. Forget it. Beefy. I think you're wrong. Okay, that's our discussion of information.
Yeah, that's it.
So what's the reality? Is information is more available, but it's even more suspect than it's ever been.
Yeah.
When it used to be a book, you could trust that a little bit.
That you knew an authoritative figure wrote.
Yeah, and editors have read and corrected information. Now with self-publishing, you go to a blog site. Who is this person? Who owns this blog? And why should you listen to them?
And it's a lot of information. Here's the good information, and here's a bunch of white noise.
So Ben and I often say, if you're going to take somebody's advice, ask to see a picture of their aquarium. If their aquarium looks like something you want your aquarium to look like, listen to their advice. Mm-hmm. If their aquarium does not look like something you want your aquarium to look like, maybe don't take their advice.
And believe it or not, there is quite a bit of that. People chiming up to tell you what to do with a terrible looking aquarium.
Oh my God! Somebody just posted in one of the cephalopod forums that they got a flamboyant cuttlefish, and how venomous is it? And somebody straight up went, they're super venomous. I would be very careful about putting your hands in the aquarium. And even more importantly, when it dies, you have to get it out immediately or it will kill everything in your tank.
Is any of that true?
None of that is true. But they said it with absolute authority. Absolute authority. The truth is that Mark Norman on the show Kings of Camouflage talked about that not only is the bite of the flamboyant venomous, but the flesh itself is toxic. That was only on that show. There's no other information about that. But quite certainly anybody who's kept them knows that if they die, they do not kill your tank like some sea cucumbers are supposed to do.
Like cowfish or something like that.
But they said it straight up. This is fact.
But then it's like, wait, who are you?
Who are you?
Right. You're just like Bob, John, Cuttlefish Man.
The next thing we talk about is growing the hobby.
Growing the hobby.
Is growing the hobby getting better or worse?
I mean, it's obviously getting better, which I think is possibly problematic. It's great business standpoint, but problematic for what it does to the hobby. I mean, growth, if you're a business guy, like growth is great, but from an ecological standpoint, growth can be sketchy.
Yeah.
How do you grow the desire for more stuff out of nature when you can look it up right now that a lot of that stuff is in question with CITES and collection and all that. Like, we're putting more burden on, that's a lot of stuff that ties in like human population on the planet and all this sustainability of stuff. It's like, there's more people. And it's like, how do we do any of that sustainably?
Yeah, well, growth industries really just eat their way through.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it got dark and rainy.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Growth is not sustainable because you have to continue growing.
You have to feed it.
I would much rather see us, instead of getting as many new hobbyists as we can, getting new hobbyists that actually have a desire to stay in the hobby longer than 18 months.
From a dry goods standpoint, there is zero problem with growth.
Yeah.
Order a bunch of aquariums.
Yeah.
Order a bunch of pumps. That is great. With the part that scares me is the draw on our resource that's already in sketchy waters. Yes. What does that do? So how do we do that better?
So if you're going to grow the hobby livestock-wise, we need to be sustainable and responsible.
Yep. Okay. Good decisions. Informed decisions.
Awesome. The last topic we're going to do is social issues. Is the hobby better or worse?
I don't know if that's like particular to the hobby. It's just like an artifact from the rest of society. Hey, let me not be the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but, Reef to Reef saying, we accept everybody, and then kind of shutting down, gay, LGBTQ, kind of thread when there's other threads about
deleting posts.
Other stuff. I mean, I don't want to see all that. I want our hobby to be very inclusive. I mean, all we want to do is sit around and talk about aquariums. I don't care who you're banging or what color you are. None of that matters or pertains to this.
Yeah, we're a microcosm of the world. What happens, though, in microcosms is people tend to think that thunder, lightning, come to our
Jesus is
today.
mad. Thou shalt not be LGBTQ.
Yeah, or also just, we had Felicia on and we talked about, what she experienced as a woman in the industry, which is horrible. Some of it was just it's terrible. But we don't believe that happens because our industry is small. Our groups are small. We think we're accepting of everyone. But there's a lot of people who are just as bad at all of that as everywhere else in the world.
Well, I mean, maybe similar to other endeavors, but it's like, it doesn't mean that because you like aquariums, you're probably a liberal or you're probably a Republican. It's kind of, you're probably white or you're probably black. I mean, there's snapshots of what type of people are prevalent in a certain endeavor. But, I mean, just don't be a dick.
I mean, there's great stuff like at Magna's. You get people from Saudi Arabia and Dubai coming into it, and no one cares. People are very happy to see them. Mm-hmm. There are more women in the hobby now that there ever have been, and at least they're more visible, and which is great. There are more people of color in the hobby now. It's not just a rich white man's thing. It's kind of great. It's kind of great, which makes the stuff like Reef to Reef so sore thumb anger making.
Well, again, I've said it before. It wouldn't be such a big deal if it was a teeny tiny forum. It could be easily ignorable. But when it's the largest one, and so my pushback is just be like, if you're going to say you're inclusive, be inclusive.
Be inclusive. Yeah, don't just give it lip service. And for Lord's sake, don't use lame excuses like family friendly, because somebody marrying another person who's the same sex or gender that they are is not anti-family. It's ridiculous.
We gotta teach your kids if two people love each other, they shouldn't.
Yeah, and they're not. It's not a dating site.
Yeah.
It's not Tinder or Grindr. It's
Yeah.
so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I said fucking stupid.
No, you're not.
That's our talk.
You're not. Yeah, we just did our talk. Let's just.
That's a version of our talk.
We should just put this up on a thing, and we can sit in the audience and watch.
We should totally do that. Let's see. Any other business where you have to, like and subscribe and stuff?
Yeah.
We're here with all these other YouTuber people, and it's interesting. And also, we need to get 500 subscriptions.
Yeah,
If we
so
get
he can do it in the crawl space.
Yeah. Also,
Film.
if we get 500 subscriptions, YouTube does a different thing where we can be more monetized or something.
No, I think it's 1,000 subscribers.
Is it 1,000?
So we have like in the high 300s of subscribers.
Yeah.
And those are rookie numbers. We need to pump that up because they would start to monetize our videos. And if we could do that, man, Richard and I would make so much content.
Oh, so much content. We would?
Yeah,
we
would.
would. I think we would.
I mean, the more, it's not necessarily like, how do we make money? Because that stuff's kind of icky. But it's like, I mean, really to make more content, different content, little shorts of more practical stuff. This is how I clean a pump and show you me cleaning a pump.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that today.
Because I think anyone with half a brain, anyone watching this knows, like, I can't sit around and film stuff for free. I have...
Right.
But if I were getting paid to do it, yes, then I can sit around and film stuff if I'm getting paid to do it.
And on that note, we got to thank everybody who's become a member, or everybody who's buying us beers. That's fantastic. That really does help out and allows us to do things.
Yeah.
It's just great. We cannot thank you enough.
The memberships.
If you can share us, if you can subscribe us, if you can ask other people to do it, that helps us out a lot.
Yeah.
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 See?
Yeah. Subscribe, see? Press like, see?
Come on. And the bell and the...
Gently caress the like.
I mean, I wonder, how many beefers, like some beefers watch the YouTube videos. I know a lot of people listen to it podcast style because then that allows them to free up and do other things. But, on whatever platform you're consuming this on, do whatever the things, the stars, the bells, the likes, the whatevers.
It's much appreciated.
Yeah.
We've got some more guests lined up, which is going to be great. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to say who they're going to be.
No, you need that anticipation.
Dwayne Ostrich.
Yeah.
Tom
Is it
Bowling.
Ostrich?
We'll ask him.
Yeah. Because he's an ostrich, like he's hiding his head in the sand.
We're talking to get Tom Bowling on.
Yeah, that would be Biota. Awesome company.
Yeah, and there's others too. We could name them even if we haven't asked them yet.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Because why would you not want to be on this crazy ass beef cast?
Yeah, I agree. No, we won't do that to people. We put them in a weird position.
Yeah. We're gonna have Richard Simmons on.
Richard Simmons from Heaven.
And Gene Simmons.
And they're the same person.
Yeah.
Little known fact.
Not a lot of people know that.
No. You take off the makeup and change the shorts.
Give one a longer tongue and take the fro off the other one.
Yeah, they're the same person. All right, we're going to go back down to the show from our rainy hotel room in Orlando, Florida. Thanks
Sunny
for listening.
Orlando. Well, no,
it was a little while ago. Anyway, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, this is us here at
Aquashella.
How bizarre is that?
How bizarre.